Keep It 100 is brought to you by Triple Double, smacking asses and taking names since 1987. La, 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 la. This is a quote from my haters. Yeah. You got me feeling like the greatest. Yeah. Bitch, I'm about to blow up. What's going on, world? Or nobody. Bitch, I'm about to blow up. Or most likely somewhere in between. My name is Casey Huckle, and I'm delivering to you Keep It 100. What is Keep It 100 about? Quotes. Yep, quotes. Meaning adages, truisms, figures of speech, expressions, sayings, lines, you name it. Yes, a group of words put together that are usually pithy, memorable, have meaning, sentiment. I would like to tell you that there has been a change to the show. Instead of trying to hustle 100 episodes and 100 quotes, one per episode, into a year, I've decided to extend it. I've made it about 50 quotes in a year. I didn't quite reach my deadline. Had some roadblocks in my life, but I'm going to keep on trucking and make it to 100, hopefully. I don't know. Just a healthier pace for me. I don't think of a couple quotes a week. I don't want to force anything. So I've extended the show to another year, approximately. So I hope you enjoy. Make sure you rate, review my show on iTunes if you can. Tell your friends, your grandmother, whoever. And without further ado, let's get started. Talk is cheap. That's nice and simple. Talk is cheap is a quote I've heard for decades now. It goes back to the 1800s, as I will briefly discuss among an interview or a discussion with my friend Caroline Dixon, who I have on this episode. I'm just setting up the Zoom call, and I hope you enjoy it. And please give me feedback if you enjoyed having a guest. This is my first guest, and hopefully not my last. So buckle up. This will be Talk is Cheap. Enjoy it. Peace. This is a Zoom call I have with my good friend Caroline Dixon, who, it's my very, very first, and hopefully not last, special guest. And she's entered the waiting room, so I'm going to admit her, and we'll talk about Talk is Cheap and how that's relevant to our time. You made it.
What? What did you say?
You made it. And what's that?
How'd it sound?
It sounded good. I don't know about me. You sounded fine.
I was taking over. I'm sure if mine is good, that yours will too, because it's coming out of the same speaker.
Yeah. I'll have to see how it sounds on GarageBand, but it came through loud and clear. Now, so I've already arranged for the introduction, and now I wanted to share with you about Talk is Cheap, and I will first talk about the origin of it. And like I had expected, Talk is Cheap. It's a common idiomatic expression that originated in the 1800s. Mm. I don't know if I don't know when I first heard it, but it's just something that I've heard like every, once in a blue moon over the years. And the definition is from what I've seen online is when people say they're going to do something, but they, their actions speak otherwise. They don't show initiative. And so the premise of the episode is really about the reaction to the murder of George Floyd, and how how easy it is to write hashtag Black Lives Matter. People have been, I think it was Blackout Tuesday, so today's Friday, so 3 days ago, people had posted black squares on their profiles on Instagram, and I was talking to my friend Tyler about it today, and we were skeptical about what, like, especially, like, most of the people I follow are white, and they're, it's easy to just to say something about it, and especially easy now because this seems to be the last straw, which is good. It'll be good for the future of our country, but that's what it is. That's what it's a call to arms. That's what this episode is about, and I'm curious to hear what you'll be doing. And it doesn't mean shit. You don't follow through, but it is only one day. We have a lot of work to do for the rest of the year into the future, and I'm just wondering, like, where you're coming from with this, and what you've been thinking about.
Totally. Well, I love the quote, and I love the sort of parallel, or like the dots that you're connecting between the statement of saying, like, okay, it's very easy to say that we're going to do something, right? And that's, like, I guess what it is. I think that it's so easy to, I think even in a non sort of, pardon my French, but like non bullshit way of, like, it's just easy to say that you're going to do something and then not, for whatever reason. And I think that, like, my thought about it is, about Black Tuesday in particular, is that, obviously in this era of social media in general, it's so easy for something to just trend and just sort of, like, it's almost this, like, domino effect chain reaction. Like, someone posts the Black Bloc, you almost feel like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm going to be judged. But I think that I also think that the intention is there, right? Like, I think that it would be sort of, I think that a lot of people who went with that type of kind of method of saying, I'm standing in solidarity, or, I'm stating that this is my way of saying that, like, I'm aligned with the movement. Again, I think that it's sort of that's not representative of action, but I think that people didn't necessarily realize that what actually came of it was that by doing that and then tagging hashtag Black Lives Matter actually sort of distracted from the message, all the resources that were available in the Black Lives Matter campaign. So all of a sudden there's just, like, you go to their page and there's, like, I think it was literally 26 million, like, black boxes, rather than sort of call to action pages of, here are the resources for the Black community, for white alliances, etc. So yeah, I think it's super interesting, but I think that just, like, activism in general sort of exists on a spectrum in the same way that, like, all politics. So I think that maybe that is one side of the kind of willingness or whatnot that some people are kind of provide. But I think that on the other hand, I think that, especially, like, to your note about being white, I think that so many white people just don't know what else to do. And I don't know if you have more to say about that before I can sort of get into, like, kind of my thoughts on, the sort of conversations around being non-racist versus anti-racist.
Yeah, my conversation with my friend Tyler today was like, we've been hearing silence means compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And
silence, or yeah, silence, and you're saying it's like white violence, right?
right. That's taking it. That's extreme. Where, I mean, some people are afraid of confrontation. a lot of some white people feel guilty about slavery and this is happening, which is not good. I think the best thing you can do is try to listen and then take action, and that would show a lot of change, a lot of improvement in our society. And yeah, I like to see watching these protests, and I don't know why I didn't think it was going to be that big on Tuesday. I was going to go to it was actually a march with his family because he's from Houston, and I got off work at 5 and it started at 3, and I thought I don't want to be late. It's like, why would I go? It's not going to be happening 3 hours from now, and I was wrong. It's like
lasted all night.
Completely missed it. Yeah. It did last. It was amazing. And yeah, I regret. Although, even though I'm on my feet all day at work, so I do like to get off my feet when I get off at 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have gone. But there would be some hesitation because I would be worried, like, just like I don't know if you've heard Macklemore's song "White Privilege" too, where he's insecure. He doesn't know. He feels awkward going to a protest as a white guy. It's like, yeah, I just don't. You got to try to overcome that emotion. But it's going to take a lot of thought a lot of empathy to be able to come together, all races, and it's going to take time. And I feel like we were progressing, and then took a huge step backwards. And so I would just like to see, and it seems like this is going to be the final straw. And I'm eager to see what happens, but not wait and try to take initiative.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think as you are interested in the sort of like social component of it, or like the social change, and I think that I think that a lot of white people, and myself included, about probably a year and a half prior, when I started my master's program, was like this. I did experience a lot of white guilt, right? So there's like all these conversations about sort of white privilege, and you all of a sudden grow up and you're like, well, how am I ever going to be able to like be a social worker if I'm sort of in this position of not really being able to empathize with my Black clients, right? There's like this barrier that's like, well, you don't really understand. And I think that, going back to our sort of like theme of action, I think that it was sort of navigating how you kind of leverage your race as our system exists today to like be that change agent. And so like, I mean, I won't actually give an example, but I think that there's a lot to be said about, you use the term white guilt. There's also like white fragility, which would be even to like a different extreme of like people almost being defensive about their race when they're confronted by something like injustice related. So I think it goes back to, I know, a conversation you and I had earlier about just like really, really on a systemic level from different systems in our country, is like really addressing it in all levels, like in our education system for our youth, right? So it's like really introducing that conversations about anti-racism in every school district in Manhattan, for example.
Yeah, that's what if I were you. I'm trying to think. I don't really, like, my platform could be higher, I'm trying to think of some I just moved to Houston. I don't know that many people here. The only thing I could do, which I did maybe 3 days ago, was message my representative, who I know very little about. But